Yeah, so good afternoon to all. Today's medicine of discussion is bismuth. We know it's a very small remedy, so let's do it fast. Yeah, so in the periodic table, the atomic number for bismuth is 83. Okay, now it comes as a post-transitional metal. Okay, you have a transition group in between after the sodium and magnesium group. Then you have a big gap in between, and then you go to the non-metals. So that gap is your transitional metals, and then you have your bismuth. Okay, so in gross appearance you have a gray white with a reddish tinge. Okay, so it's not like a normal metal that has always a silvery kind of appearance. This also has a reddish tinge, which makes it easy to identify. Much safer than lead. So in earlier scenarios, lead was one of the important metals that was used for making bullets or whatever it is. So basically, lead was actually causing harm because lead toxicity is already known, and nowadays lead is being replaced. They are trying to replace lead with bismuth because bismuth is considered as a green metal because it has very low toxicity. Okay, yeah, in uses you have bismuth components are used in modern medicine for all your acid peptic diseases. So some kind of syrups that you take for your acidity, all those things, diarrheal diseases, all those things will be having a little content of bismuth. Okay, and it is also used as a catalyst for making acrylic fibers and used for alloys like solders, plumbing works, and used in even semiconductors and coolants. Okay, so it's not a very cheap thing. Bismuth has a very wide range of applications. See, this is the reddish tinge that I've said before. Common name is hydrated oxide of bismuth. I have a confusion here, but I couldn't clarify that. You have some kind of nitrite component of bismuth also mentioned in boric, and keynote gives you hydrated oxide. So I'm sticking for keynotes only. In boric, if you see, there is something that relate to nitrite component of bismuth. Okay, so yeah, please clarify that when you get time. Mental general, solitude is unbearable. Okay, solitude is unbearable. Desires company. Child holds on to its mother's hand for company. Okay, so that's the level of desire some person to be around. That is there in bismuth. Okay, Calicarb, Lilium tick, and Lycopodium. Okay, so all these remedies are there. And I think delights in solitude is coca, right? So anguish, he sits, then walks, then lies, never long in one place. Okay, so that kind of restlessness that you can see in bismuth. Anguish, he sits, walks, then lies, but never long in one place. Okay. Headache, returning in every winter, alternating with or attended by gastralgia. So headache with some kind of stomach pain. Okay, so that is there. Headache alternating with hemorrhoids, you have aloes. So just like that, you have headache alternating with gastralgia, that is your bismuth. Face deathly pale blue rings around the eye. So previous remedy that we had discussed was your Berberis vulgaris, so that will be already there. The list I couldn't put up there in the class is put up here. Okay, you have worm remedies like Cinna, Santonin, and Felixmas. You have Berberis vulgaris. You have natrum carb, phosphoric acid, and your shock remedies like Abrotanum, Sicael, and Verat. Okay. Toothache, better by holding cold water. So again, please remember this is very important question for APCT. That is your toothache, better by holding cold water. Now, you have Bryonia, Coffea, Pulsatilla, you have natrum sulf, Okay, you have bismuth. So all these things are there. I think the opposite is given in chamomilla, where toothache is aggravated if something warm is taken in. So the opposite is given for, like the description is opposite, but I think essentially it makes the same sense. Like better by cold and aggravation warmth. Okay, so better by cold is mentioned in all these remedies like Bryonia, Coffea, Pulsatilla, Natrum Sulph and Bismuth. Aggravation warmth is given in chamomilla, and amelioration warmth is in Macphos. Okay, amelioration Macphos. I have not put that in a table. Okay, so please remember, please make a note of these things. In GIT, you have vomiting of water as soon as it reaches the stomach. Now, cross comparison is with arsenic, which has problem with food as well as water. Bismuth has problem more with water. The food is retained longer, but water is thrown out. Okay, vomiting of enormous quantities at intervals of several days when food has filled the stomach of all fluids as soon as taken, and purging, offensive stools. Okay, now bracket you have watery stools like veratrum. Now watery stools, veratrum again shows comparison for cholera, with convulsive gagging and inexpressible pain. So this guy has enormous gastralgia, which already alternates with headache. Okay, now there is some kind of abdomen colic. You have vomiting. Problem is more with water. Okay, food retains better than water. Now, another indication is after laparotomy. If vomiting is there, you can think of bismuth along with Noxomica and Staphylococcus aureus. Staphylococcus aureus, I think we already know after operations, after surgeries, you have this indication for Staphy. Just like that, Nux, another polycrest, again nausea-centered remedy, and along with that, you add bismuth to your list. Okay. In stomach, you have pressure as from a rod in one spot. Okay, in one spot there is a huge amount of pressure that is experienced by the patient, which alternates with burning. Okay, pain, crampy, spasmodic with irritation, cardialgia and pyrosis. So all these things are there. Main thing is that he has abdominal colic. There is a sensation of pressure in one particular spot. Okay, that alternates with burning. Now the pictures given here is that of a unhygienic condition where the child is collecting water. So why this is given? This is just to represent how cholera is transmitted. So unhygienic water or contaminated water, the water that has a infected feces of a cholera infected person. So all these things are the route of transmission. Cholera is again a gram-negative bacteria. Now cholera morbus and summer complaint when vomiting predominates. So whatever is there, we already need to focus on the vomiting part, because bismuth has more action on vomiting. There is diarrhea in bismuth, but the vomiting is concentrated a little more in the Allen's node. So I already want you to remember this particular point, cholera morbus when vomiting predominates. This, when you see, you need to remember bismuth. Okay, the stool is described as papescent, watery, offensive, very prostrating. So all the things are there. Again, we know cholera has loss of fluid, so there is a kind of hypovolemic shock that can come if it is untreated. So I think this all makes sense, right? There is vomiting, there is a lot of vomiting, already there is diarrhea. Now how cholera happens is initially they have diarrhea followed by vomiting. Okay, it's not like only diarrhea happens and then the next is vomiting, but usually it's like the diarrhea is painless. It can be attended with colic, but usually it is painless. So painless diarrhea, where you can see it is one, there is a question mark for cholera. And along with then comes your vomiting and diarrhea. Initially all the gut contents are evacuated, the normal things will be gone, and then comes your rice watery stools. Okay, Yeah, so we'll go to that. So what I want you to remember was cholera morbus. It is in the summer complaint when vomiting is predominant in these conditions, and the stool is described as pepescent, watery, offensive, and very prostrating. Okay. Yeah. So Vibrio cholera has it is a gram-negative bacteria. You have Vibrio cholera 01. Okay, it's not 01, 01 I guess. Yeah. So we have two subtypes, the classical and L-Tor variety. The L-Tor variety has caused the 7th pandemic in 1961, and there is a atypical serotype known as 0139 which had caused epidemics in Bangladesh. Not much important, may be important in your PSM classes. Severe diarrhea. Now how cholera progresses is usually causes severe diarrhea, which can be painless or can be attended with colic. Okay, followed by vomiting. Now there is one word called as purging. Now purging is actually meant for this painless diarrhea, especially for rice watery stools. So what I want you to remember is purging occurs first in your cholera patient, then comes your vomiting phase. Okay, evacuation of normal gut contents and then followed by rice watery stools. That's your purging. Okay, you have a question in FMT that which disease does arsenic poison resemble to? So the answer is cholera, but there are fine differences. So in pain in throat can happen before vomiting phase in arsenic, whereas in cholera it is after vomiting. It's a late feature. Okay, the vomitus is usually bloody or mucus contained vomitus in arsenic poison, but in cholera it's usually watery. Okay, purging is after vomiting in your arsenic poisoning, but as we said, diarrhea purging occurs before your vomiting phase in cholera. Okay, in cholera, so basically you have diarrhea and purging, which is followed by vomiting. Stools is bloody or mucus kind of stools, and which is followed by rice watery in arsenic. But in cholera, as I said, initially can be normal, but then comes your rice watery stools. Tenesmus is there in arsenic but not in cholera. Okay, in boric you have neuralgic pains as if torn by pincers involved in face, teeth, worse eating, better by cold. Okay, so that is already covered. The tongue is described as white with kind of a black wedges on dorsum and side of tongue. Gastritis is better by cold drinks. So another better by cold thing is there. Gastritis is better by cold. Painless diarrhea, which again goes proper with your cholera thing, with great thirst because there is loss of fluid, so there is thirst, and restlessness on account of voluptuous dreams. Okay, antidote is Nux vomica, capsicum and calcarea. We have two questions for you. Select the true statement from the following with regard to bismuth. Gastric derangements after cold fruits, ice cream, ice water. Okay, not that. Toothache during menses or pregnancy, not that. Vomiting of water as soon as it reaches the stomach, food retained longer. So that is true. So the answer is C. Pain in right ileocecal region. Okay, yeah, it's not that. Yeah, so the next one. Find the oddly matched pair. In the first, okay, important question. In first stages of cholera morbus and Asiatic cholera, severe long-lasting chill. It's not Veratrum album, it is camphor. Okay. Yeah. So cholera morbus and Asiatic cholera with cramps and abdomen, cough, that is Copamet, that's true. Painless cholera morbus, cholera infantum, podophyllum and phytolacca, that is again true. And morbid fear of cholera you can see in nitric acid. Okay. So I think ours is also there. But yeah, so this you need to remember cholera. This is the comparison. I have not kept in a table. In fact, I have kept in a question. Okay. So please take a snapshot. Thank you.